Hey, I'm Jake from TradeLab.ai. Today we're going to be talking about commander strategies in TradeLab. A commander strategy is a strategy that listens for alerts and then uses global variables to send messages to other strategies that we call workers. So in this example, we're going to set up a commander strategy that listens for alerts for many symbols. It's going to listen for alerts for 20 symbols, and when it hears an entry for a symbol, it's going to send a message using global variables to different worker strategies, which will then place the order for us. Worker strategies are strategies that listen for messages from commanders and then react to them. In this case, we're going to be placing an order whenever our commander strategy tells the worker what symbol to place for. Unlike normal strategies, worker strategies don't need a symbol or even an amount to be set up, as the worker strategy will listen for the message from the commander and set it up on the fly. So let's take a look at how to set this up. So the first thing we'll do is set up our alerts. So if I hit save, I'll set up example alerts so that we can, kind of glue everything together. I'm going to start out with I'll do a new template. So we start out with simple stuff here, and we'll say this is my buy alert. Okay. And for my buy alert, we're going to have the type equal buy. Okay. So my type is buy. My symbol is going to be dynamic. It'll send me whatever. My interval is going to be dynamic. I'm also going to look for an amount. I'm going to do this with dynamic amounts. So I pretend I have a strategy on TradingView that actually is sending me some sort of amount that I want to trade. Okay, so I could put that in here as a number, dynamic, and I could say, the TV plot name, and I would just say it's amount, right? So this TV plot name is connecting me to a TradingView plot. I have TradingView open, but so the TradingView, it's not what I wanted. Sorry. So I always show this real quick. To get your plot names, you can go to the data window, and the data window has all of your it has all of your strategies in here. Each strategy has a header, and you can look at your plot names under here. So you would type in that name that you see here into this box right here. Okay, for TV plot name. Okay. So we'll do that with a dynamic amount. And yeah, I think that should be enough. So for now, that is all we need to do for our alert. So we'll say save. Yeah, we'll say save. And we have our buy alert. We'll go to edit. Okay, and we are going to want to listen for our custom alert. We want it to be a buy alert. Okay, and now if we hear that, we want to go ahead and set up our set our variables, and we're to do that, we're going to have to set up some global variables. Okay, so if we take a look at the left, it says global variables on the menu. So we'll make sure that we hit save and then hit global variables. All right, so with the global variables, it's just like creating a variable for strategies. It's really the same thing. So we just hit the plus button. It'll create a global variable. Oh, you know what? I need to change. I did that for the UI for the strategy, but I didn't do it for global variables. I need to make this show up at the top whenever you hit plus. I'll make a note of that. But anyway, So I'll type in a name. So for this example, what I'm going to do is I'm going to be sending the symbol that I want to trade, and I'm going to be sending the amount that I want to trade as an example. Okay, so we're sending a dynamic amount all the way from TradingView through our alert, and we're going to set that, and we're also going to set our symbol that we hear from our alert as well. Okay, so to do that, I'm going to set up a worker one symbol. Okay, looks like Bybit just did an update, so we'll take a look at that in a second. So worker one symbol. Okay, wonderful. All right, so we have a variable called worker one symbol, and we'll make this a string, and we don't need to put a value in it because we're going to fill that in ourselves. But that's why it needs to be at the top as well. So anyway, we have worker symbol, all right, and then we'll create worker one amount. Worker one amount is going to be a number, and again, we're going to fill this in, so we'll just leave it as 0. We'll click finish. All right, so I came to global variables. I hit the plus button 2 times. I typed in worker one symbol, worker one amount. I left the values blank. The symbol is going to be a string because it's alphanumeric, letters and numbers. And then worker one amount is going to be a number, right? Because it's an amount. Okay, so those are the 2 global variables that I'm setting up. You can make as many as you need. This can get more complicated. This is a fairly simple example, but it should show you how to do this. So we're going to create our global variables. We'll go to our strategy. We'll go to our commander strategy. I should just turn on list view. But here's our commander strategy, okay? And now that we have our global variables, we're going to set global variables, and we're going to set our worker one symbol, and we're going to do a reference field, and it's going to be our lowercase symbol from our lowercase. Okay, well, here is a great example of how you can work around a problem. So currently, we're having an issue where I have a uppercase symbol, and this uppercase symbol is the symbol right here for trade settings. Okay, of course, this is a commander strategy, and we're never going to place an order, so we don't ever need to fill out our symbol. It doesn't really matter. But we want to send the symbol that's coming from our alert. Now, the symbol that's coming from our alert is lowercase symbol, and I'm having a bug, a technical issue, where symbol and symbol are the same on the background. And so whenever I click this, it's not selecting what I want. And I guess, well, no. Well, yeah, I really don't know what this is going to do, to be honest. So to be safe, because we're having a bug, and in the new builder, this is just fixed fundamentally. But now what we're going to do is we'll go to the alerts tab, and we'll edit our alert. And instead of using symbol, we'll say ticker. All right. And so we were having an issue with collision. Instead of that, we'll and I used to have symbol here, and I think, well, okay, well, it's going to do what it's going to do. So we have ticker here, and that's all we need to do. So we have ticker, we hit save, we'll go back to edit, and now instead of symbol, I'll type in ticker, and now we have our ticker from our alert. Okay, and we're setting that in worker one symbol. Okay, so now we need to do the same thing with our amount. So if we say global variables, we're going to do set global variables. Sorry, we're going to do set global variables, and then we're going to do worker one amount. So this is the global variable that we want to set, and we want to set it to a number. Now we could just type in a number, but obviously what we want to do is set it to the value that came in from the alert. So we would just type in amount, because that's what I called it when I was setting up. Oh, and look, Jake, you're really bad at creating examples. Okay, so I picked a bad name, and we're having an issue. And this is something that users can do. You can experience this. This is a good example. So don't pick this name. This is, in the future, in a couple weeks, I'm going to release the builder, hopefully, and or at least we're going to really start testing it. And this won't, we won't have this issue. But this is a good example. So don't use this name. So we'll go back. It's too generic of a name. I use it in my code and it's conflicting. So instead, we'll call this quantity. Quantity. There we go. Okay. And we'll hit save. Okay, of course, if you're following along and actually setting up your alerts, you now have to copy that into TradingView, right? And update your alert. But now we have quantity. So I'll just quantity. There we go. Okay, so problem solved. So now we have our worker one symbol, worker one amount. Whenever we hear a buy, our commander symbol is going to go. Okay. As I said, this is going to be a pretty easy example. So like this is just going to be like any symbol long. And I guess we could copy this and do a short as well. If we were to, let's do that. So if we were to do a long and a short, let's think about this for a second. If we need to do a long and a short, and I'm going to send my symbol and my amount, I should also send what side I want to be on. I could do that in a number of ways. You could get creative and make this a negative number, multiply it by -1, and then you could check to see if it's above or below, whenever. But a better way, in my opinion, would just be to hit save. We'll create one more global variable. It costs us nothing. You can have as many as you want. So we'll just go worker one side. And you see I'm doing worker one just in case later on we do 2 workers or 3 workers. I'm going to do worker one side. And actually, I mentioned this earlier in the AMA. There's a way that we can actually do this without doing worker one, worker two, worker three. And you know what? I'm going to show that as well. So I'm going to do worker one, and obviously you could do worker 1, 2, and 3, or whatever you want to do. But I'm going to also show how we can use just worker amount, worker symbol, and worker side, and not have to double those up. Okay. So I'll show you that in a second. This is going to be a string because we're going to put like buy and sell in here. Okay. So this is going to be a string. We're going to hit save here. It's going to be blank for right now. That's fine. Okay. And then, and if anybody's asking, the read only, that would make it so that I can't have any of the rules change the global variable. And that's not what I want. I want my rules to change my global variable. So read only is no. The read only, you would want to set this to true to protect any of the rules from being able to change it. And then the only way that you can change it is to come in here and edit it, right? So sometimes you want to protect it, right? And you can do that. All right, so we have our worker side. We'll go back to our strategy. Also in the new builder, you'll be able to edit your global variables within the builder. so you don't have to go back and forth between pages. So that'll be nice. Okay, so what we want to do now is we have a short and a long, so we want to make sure that this is a sell, that we're going to listen for a buy and a sell. I would set up a different alert for a sell. You could do that really quickly. So come into here, I could copy my alert, edit it, make a sell alert, make this sell. So if you have any questions on how to do that, it's that easy. I hit copy, that button right there, and I just renamed it to sell and sell. And everything else stays the same. This is all fine. Okay, we'll hit save. So now we have a buy and a sell alert. I can copy that into TradingView, and now I have buy and sell. And I typed in sell, so that's what I type in here, right? Okay, so now we have that, and the last thing we need to do is fill in that worker side, right, that we just added. So if we go to global variables, set, I keep on doing that, set, and then we'll go to global variables, okay, and then go to worker one side. Reference field, we're going to check the, sorry, no we're not. So we're going to do worker one side, and then we're going to just type in buy and sell right here. Okay, and that's going to fill that in. And that should be all we need to do. Okay, so that is going to set up a buy and a sell signal on our commander strategy. It is really simple. I would recommend perhaps, having more confluence or whatever it is that you're looking to do. But this is pretty useful because this can listen to a buy and a sell from any symbol. So we set it up. We can set up multiple alerts. You'll have to set up an alert for each symbol in TradingView because that's just how TradingView works. But it can hear any all the alerts will be identical with the exception of the symbol. TradingView will inject the symbol automatically, and the symbols will be different. So then we'll go ahead and hear that. We'll set it, and now let's make our worker. So we have a commander strategy. Let's make our worker strategy. So I hit new. Real quick, I went back to my strategies and I hit the new button, right? And then I'm going to do worker strategy example. Okay. So here we would normally set, this is going to be placing an order. So we would normally set up our symbol, but we don't need to because we're going to automatically fill it. What is important though is we need to set up our exchange. So whatever exchange that you're going to select, make sure that that's selected. We are going to be placing an order, so we need to make sure our leverage is set, our time in force, our order type. If your take profit, stop loss, you need to set all this if that's what you want to do inside of your worker. Okay, if you want to get complicated, right, instead of just sending your amount, we're going to fill in this amount dynamically. But just instead of just sending this, you could send your leverage and your profit and your stop loss, right? So you could send it all, and we can set it all up the same way that I'm about to show you right now. So what we're going to do is we're going to listen for commander. Okay, and listening for commander, all we got to do is hit global variables, and we're going to listen for the worker. So this is interesting. We can do this. Again, I said that we can do this one of two ways. We can do worker 1, 2, 3, or we can just do it just like have one set of variables. Let me say that again. So I mentioned a second ago that we can have either multiple sets of variables, one for each worker, or we can have just one set of variables. And this is sort of where that comes into play. So if I want to have multiple sets of variables, it depends on how I want to treat those variables. If I want to keep them set up, then I would need a fourth variable that says buy, and that would be a true or false variable, right? So I'll show you that here. That's fine. So worker one, I already have a side, so I could do like a worker one order, and I would do true false. Okay, so just covering all our bases, we got a number, a string, and true false now. Okay, and this is just an example of how you can use a true false to trigger an order. Okay, so normally we would now come into here, we would hit add action, and we would set, and I'm in my commander strategy, right? So I'm setting my global variable, setting my global variable worker one order, okay? And I'm going to set this to true. Okay, when that's true, we're going to hit save. We'll go to my strategies. We'll go to the worker. You know what? Let me turn on list view. We'll go to the worker strategy example. Okay, so in here, if we had separate sets of variables, worker 1, 2, and 3 all have their own sets of variables, and there's reasons to do that. It sounds messy, and it is, but there's reasons that you might want to do that. So if you want to do that, you would then listen for your worker 1 order, which would be true or false, and you want it to be true. Okay, and then the first thing you would do with that is you would set your global variables worker 1 order to false. You would need to reset it to false. And in that way it clears it. We know that we've taken care of it and nobody else, it doesn't happen again, right? So we go ahead and reset that. And that's how we would trigger a commander strategy to make an order with a worker strategy using a true false variable. Okay. Now, the other way that you can do this is using one set of variables. And instead of needing, and it actually kind of makes it simpler, because instead of needing this fourth variable for order, we don't need that anymore. We can delete it. Okay, we go in there and hit the delete button. And what we can do instead is we can say, let's just pick one. It really doesn't matter. Let's say side. Okay. If I hear my side is equal to buy, then I know that I listen for commander buy. And then I could do this and listen for commander sell if I want to, right? Or I could also, instead of just doing buy or sell, because I got a plan for that here in a second, it would look like that, right? Commander buy sell. Instead of doing that, I got a plan on how we can do that even slicker here in a second. I'll delete this and we'll say is not equal to blank, right? So if my side is not blank, then let's do some stuff, okay? And when I'm done with doing my stuff, I would want to make sure that I do worker side set to blank. And now I reset it. So I don't need that true false variable anymore. And I don't even need separate sets of variables. I can set all of my side, my symbol, and my amount, and then I can make sure that I also set them all to blank again or back to 0. So I would set my amount back to 0. and then I would set my symbol back to blank. And so as long as I clear it out every time, I can use the same ones, and I could have multiple workers all listening for the same thing. And that would be okay, right? Now, if I want to have multiple workers and I want to clear this out, I do still want to have a worker one order, but it wouldn't be used for the same thing. Instead of the commander saying worker one order true, I would want to make this say worker one order true. And if you can imagine, we have 5 workers. We don't want all 5 workers to hear the commander say buy. And if I only have one set of variables, they wouldn't know which one should go, right? And so we would only have one set of variables, okay, amount, symbol, and side. But then each worker would have a worker 1 order, worker 2 order, worker 3 order, okay? And whenever the worker makes an order, I would add to my, let's go ahead and place order, right? Because we want to go ahead and place an order for this. And when I place my order, I also want to set my global variable worker 1 order to true, right? So that's how, and now we know that this is true. And so worker 2 would be the same thing. I could copy this strategy, and worker 2 would be the same thing. And it would listen for worker side. We wouldn't have worker 1 side. Remember, we're pretending that we just have one set, right? So it would listen for worker side, and then it would also listen. There would be a worker side 2 order. Let's try not to go too fast here. So if I'm going to create a worker strategy, let's name this worker strategy 1, and let's actually do a worker strategy 2. Okay, so let's go to worker strategy 2. We'll copy this, clone it. Okay, this is our second worker strategy. Okay, and our second worker strategy, we're going to save this. We also need to create a global variable for this. Okay, we have our worker 1 side. Okay, we understand how we can do worker 1, 2, and 3. I think most people will actually want to do a one set. Okay, so I'm now going to go deeper and give a full example of how to do the one set. Okay, so I'm going to take away the 1 so that we're not confused. Okay, and now I'm going to do worker 2 order, and this is going to be a true false. Okay, so I have a worker 1, worker 2. I have a worker 1 and a worker 2 order. Okay, and then I have a worker side, worker amount, and worker symbol. Okay, and so to summarize on what we've done so far, when we look at our worker 1 and worker 2 strategies, they both want to make sure that our worker side is not empty. I changed these so they went blank, so we're just going to set it back up. It's okay. So our worker side is empty. Okay, we want to make sure that our actually, I hadn't filled this in yet, so we'll get to this in a second. We want to make sure that our worker side is empty. We want to make sure that when that is empty, we want to set our global variable of worker amount to 0, our global variable worker side to empty, and our global variable worker symbol to empty. So we're resetting everything. Okay, we were setting it in our commander, and now once we hear it, we're going to reset it. And so that's how we use one set of variables. We just clear them out. Okay, we're going to place our order, And we're also going to set worker 1 order to true. So now we know that our worker 1 is gone. So that's for worker 1. We're actually in worker 2 now. So let's work on our worker 2 strat. So it's the same thing, okay, except we're going to set worker 2 to true, right? But we need to make sure that this doesn't run unless worker 1 is running, right? So we want them to fill up, in order, right? So worker 1 needs to not be in an order, okay? So we need to go here and we'll say add condition statement, and we'll say make sure that our global variables worker 1 order is equal to false, right? So listen for commander. This is for worker 2. We're making sure that our side is empty, and we're making sure that our worker, we need to make sure that our worker 1 order is in a trade. We only want worker 2 to fire if worker 1 is in a trade. Sorry about that. Okay, so does that make sense? So we want worker side is not equal to empty. So we want the side to have something. We filled it. Okay, and we want worker 1 to already be in a trade so that worker 2 can kick off. Then we're going to place our order and we're going to clear everything so that this doesn't trigger a second time. Okay. And then we set worker 2 order to true in case we have a worker 3, right? And that's it. We need to set our amount. Let's set our amount. So if we also need to set our side as well. Silly me. And our symbol. Jeez. Okay, so we have talked about so far we've talked about clearing out these, okay? But before we clear them out, we actually should be using them, okay? So what we want to do is we want to set our strategy side and symbol. So we'll do side first. We want to set our strategy side to a reference field, and the reference field will be worker side, okay? Just a real quick note here of some technical. I typed in buy and sell with a lowercase s and b. Okay, buy and sell, lowercase b, lowercase s. That is the way that you should do it because that links up to the way that strategy works. So if you do capital B, it might work actually. Actually, it will work. It will work because I don't because I have case sensitivity off. There's a case sensitivity. If you go into advanced settings, you can make it case sensitive, but I have put in code to make it case insensitive by default. So scratch that. It doesn't need to be complicated. You don't have to worry about it. Just type buy sell. As long as you type buy sell, this will work. Okay. Don't type long short. That will not work. So buy sell. Okay. So we have strategy side, worker side. My commander set it to buy or sell. So my worker side is now being set by the commander strategy, and now we're filling it into this strategy. Okay. And we're going to do the same thing with symbol and amount. Okay. So we're going to set my strategy symbol to so silly me. I need to do reference field and type in ticker. Or no, sorry. Worker symbol. Okay. So we have strategy side, worker side, strategy symbol, worker symbol. Okay. And now we want to do our amount. So we want to set our strategy amount. I believe it's trade amount. and we want to reference field worker amount. Okay? Now, it's important to note that the actions run in order. So if I were to save this and run this the way it is, I would be setting all of my variables to 0 before, and clearing them out before I then set my strategy information. So this will never work. Okay? So what I want to do is use these up arrows to move these up. And this will actually be a little bit easier in the builder. You'll be able to drag and drop these, and it also you won't have to like scroll as you're going through here. So this is a little bit of a bad example, but it's a good example because it shows that if you put these out of order, it's okay. You can just use the arrow buttons to move them up like that. So now I'm making sure that I use my variables first. Okay, I'm setting all of my information. Then I'm clearing my variables. It's okay because I've already set them in my strategy, so clearing them won't matter. And then I place my order. And then I say, hey, I've placed an order. And let all the strategies know. Okay? So that is how that works. We're looking for order 1 to be open before, worker 1 to be open before worker 2. And we are setting everything. Of course, we need to set all of the other settings that we're not filling in automatically, as I explained before. But that's it. We'll hit save and exit. And just to make sure that like the workers are the same, I would delete this worker because I edited the worker and I don't want to make the edits twice. So I'll just clone the worker 2. I'm going to get rid of the word copy here. And then I'm also going to make this worker 1. And for worker 1, we don't want to listen for this, so I'll remove this as it was. And then I'll make sure that this is worker 1 order and check this to true. And that's it. So now we have a full setup of 2 workers and a commander strategy that can set any symbol at once on the fly. If you have any more questions, feel free to contact us on Discord. And if you liked the video, give us a like and subscribe for more updates. Appreciate it. Have a good one.